Well, won't you look who's back? Good old Mickey Mouse. Come to save us poor forgotten toons again, have ya?
There are two notable eras in Disney's movie history, the Golden Age when Walt was alive, and the Renaissance era of the 90s and early 2000s. If the first Epic Mickey was a tribute to Golden Age Disney, the sequel is a tribute to Renaissance Disney. This is Epic Mickey 2 for the Wii. Set not long after the events of the first game, Wasteland is enjoying a bright peace. That is until a mysterious evil begins to plague the land with earthquakes and evil animatronics piloted by ink monsters. Although Oswald wants to be the hero and save the day himself, certain citizens know that their best chance is calling upon Mickey Mouse to save them. Without hesitation, Mickey returns to Wasteland with a magical paintbrush and volunteers to team up with Oswald to save this troubled land of the forgotten. This story has less drama than the first game and a bit more intrigue about figuring out what evil is behind all of this and how to stop it. That and its charming cartoon cast made this just as interesting of a story to get invested in, just for different reasons. When I decided to review this game, I debated if I wanted to get the Wii version or the slightly pricier Wii U version that came out the same year as a Wii U launch title. Obviously the Wii U version has superior graphics with it being on an HD platform, but this Wii version I ultimately settled on doesn't look too bad. Sure, as a Wii game it does have that muddiness and jagged edges, but the art style kinda makes up for it. Epic Mickey 2 manages to look brighter, more colorful, and more charming in a Disney way despite hardware that was already dated by this point. This, along with a frame rate that only occasionally dips, makes the game look better than its predecessor regardless of which version you choose. It also feels like the developers put more into the game's sound design. Now, the sound effects are basically the same, for better or worse, but there's a greater emphasis on music. This is what I mean by the game being a tribute to Renaissance Disney, with its style of dialogue and music. The music while playing stands out a bit more than before, and there are some scenes where characters actually sing in a way that feels reminiscent of Renaissance Disney films. Well, okay, 95% of the time it's just the Mad Doctor singing, which is pretty entertaining when done in the right places, but starts to feel excessive when he keeps doing it, even when giving you instructions over the radio. However, this does bring up a big addition to the sound. Characters now have full voice acting, and not just in cutscenes either, they actually talk while you're playing too. When I first realized this, I was admittedly concerned, but fortunately the developers seem to have chosen a good cast for this game. All of the characters sound like the counterparts you're used to hearing in 90s Mickey Mouse cartoons. Some names you might recognize are Jason Marsden, Tress MacNeille, Jim Cummings, and Oswald being voiced by Frank Welker, a voice actor best known for voicing Fred Jones in almost every Scooby-Doo cartoon ever made for the past 50 years. Besides the big changes with voice acting, the first difference I noticed was in the camera. The camera is actually improved to where you can move it all around using the D-pad. This is already much better than the first game, but it's still not perfect, as there are a lot of times that the camera felt clunky, and in that clunkiness would end up in weird angles that made it hard to see anything. This was part of the debate I had between reviewing the Wii U version or the Wii version. See, I've always felt that moving the camera around with the Wii Remote's D-pad was never going to work as well as the right thumbstick. The Wii U version of course controls the camera with the right stick, but I still went for the Wii version for one main reason. The pointer controls are much better for using your paintbrush. You can just tell this important mechanic was designed with the Wii in mind. Now, this wouldn't matter if the Wii U version included the Wii Remote as an optional controller. After all, other Wii U games like Call of Duty Black Ops 2 on the Wii U offer both. But for some reason, the Wii U version doesn't include the Wii Remote's pointer controls as an option, so that ends up being an advantage that the Wii version has over all other versions. Frankly, it feels short-sighted that the Wii controls weren't included in the Wii U version. Much of the gameplay from before is maintained with the platforming, combat, and puzzle solving, but I did notice there wasn't as much combat this time outside of scripted events. The parts with scripted combat were fun, and you use the same mechanics of mixing paint or thinner with your spin attack. It's just that there were less of them than before. But don't worry, there's still a decent amount of intense bosses to fight, which Epic Mickey has managed to keep consistent since the first game. But yes, the sequel is more focused on puzzle solving, platforming, and exploration, which means using the same mechanics of painting platforms in to jump across, or thinning walls to find important items hidden behind them. I have to say that some of the puzzles seemed more confusing, as you have to do a lot of experimenting to find each solution, and even then solutions felt elusive. So some of you will like that added challenge factor, but others won't. A key new component of the game for puzzle solving and combat, and platforming to a certain degree, is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. In this sequel, he's your ally who can be controlled by a second player, or he'll be AI controlled if you're playing alone. Instead of a paintbrush, he uses a remote control that can do a lot. For puzzle solving, it's used for sending power to a device, hacking a computer, or lighting fireworks to blow stuff up. In combat, he can stun enemies and disarm some animatronic foes temporarily with a blast of electricity. This is especially useful when fighting the new animatronic foes who are pretty tough as nails otherwise. I wish I had him helping me like this in the first game with some of those evil animatronic pirates. He can even assist with platforming at key areas by tossing Mickey up or letting you toss him so you can grab his feet and the two of you can hover somewhere as he turns his ears into helicopter blades in classic cartoon fashion. But as great as the teamwork aspect of this is, you'll definitely want a second player controlling him, because Oswald is pretty dumb when he's AI controlled. Sometimes I had to hit just the right button at just the right time for him to actually do something instead of running back and forth not knowing what to do with himself, or just giving me a blank stare. Sometimes I would hit the co-op prompt button, which would get him to take 2 steps then suddenly forget what he was going to do. I know this was 2012, but come on, AI tech in video games is already more advanced than this by then. Now the game did make enhancements and additions to some things that were already good in the first game, like using the pin trader to get reward pins, which made all those Mickey pins suddenly more worth collecting than they were the first time around. I also liked these 2 coats of paint that were introduced, one to make you invisible, and the other to make you immune to paint thinner, all until the armor wears off of course. They feel like the developers took inspiration from Super Mario 64 to expand on their Disney game, and it worked, because occasional stealth or armor segments do help keep the game from feeling repetitive. 2D levels from one area to another are also back, but there are different kinds. There are caverns you enter and exit through these manhole covers that allow you to take branching paths to get to different sides of the same world, since you can't just really roam all about the worlds. These caverns were creative with how they got you to think of your own ways to navigate around, but I actually had more fun with the shorter, faster paced 2D levels that were based on more old Disney cartoons I've seen. I have to admit, as a Halloween guy, I got extra excited about the levels based on the Skeleton Dance and Night on Bald Mountain. But there were 2 more issues that I couldn't ignore, one being some clunky mechanics. At parts like this where I had to push an energy sphere, Mickey often wouldn't respond to my button inputs when I'm trying to push A when the game is telling me to. I did eventually get this, but most of the time instead of pushing the ball when I press A, Mickey ends up either jumping or walking into the ball face first. This part took a lot longer than it should have for that reason. Also, as much as I like that there's full voice acting here, maybe some parts shouldn't have had voice acting. Mainly the parts where Gus keeps giving you the same piece of vague advice on what to do in a part of the level. If you don't start doing what the game wants you to do in that area, Gus is going to keep telling you the same thing every 5 or 10 seconds until you figure it out.
Both of you must work together to solve this problem. Both of you must work together to solve this problem. Both of you must work together to solve this problem.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
So some improvements were made, but some old issues from the last game weren't fixed, and new issues came up in the sequel. So while I think this is still a good game, I can see why a lot of critics were harsh on it when it came out. Most copies of Epic Mickey 2 for the Wii go for anywhere from $4 to $12 online. Not a bad price range for this sequel. It's not without its fair share of problems, and that is frustrating that the developers didn't fix more issues from the first game, but the positives do outweigh the negatives, so it's another good game for serious Disney fans to pick up. Well, that's my review of Epic Mickey 2 for the Wii, which concludes what has been my month of Disney. To help me produce more videos like this, please support my Patreon page. Special thanks to my current patrons here. Remember that supporting my Patreon gets your name in the credits and access to my flagship videos a full day early. Also be sure to check out my previous reviews of the original Epic Mickey for the Wii and LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean for the Wii. See you all next time with my review of Pikmin 4.
Aha! That looks just like you, Mickey.